hungry girl tries to trade her only toy for food, unaware that this innocent gesture was about to change the fate of 3 lives forever. The fine rain in Portland transformed the sidewalks into dark mirrors, reflecting the yellowish lights of the street lamps that began to turn on in that grey afternoon. Emily Reed adjusted the scarf around her daughter Lily's neck as they walked hurriedly toward Morgan's supermarket. The icy wind cut their faces like blades, and the heavy clouds promised more storms for the coming hours. "Mommy, it's so cold," whispered 3-year-old Lily, clutching her faded teddy bear against her chest. The toy had been a birthday gift from the year before, when things weren't so difficult. Its patched ears and worn eyes told the story of many nights being the faithful companion of a child who needed more comfort than life could offer. Emily forced a smile, trying to hide the worry she carried like an invisible weight on her shoulders. "We'll be in the warm place soon, my princess. Remember, today is your birthday? We're going on a special outing." The supermarket was one of the landmarks of the Greenwater neighborhood. It wasn't the most luxurious in town, but it maintained a solid reputation among residents of the area. Emily pushed the glass door, being welcomed by the cozy contrast of heated air and the aroma of fresh bread coming from the bakery at the back of the establishment. Lily let go of her mother's hand for a moment, amazed by the vibrant colors of the fruits at the entrance, by the organized rows of products, and by the movement of people pushing carts. For her, it was like a miniature amusement park, full of possibilities and discoveries. Emily mentally calculated the money in her pocket, $8.25. She needed to make it stretch to buy the essentials: milk for Lily, perhaps some bananas that might be on sale, and if a few coins were left, a small bread roll to share for dinner. Each purchase was planned with an engineer's precision. Every penny had a set destination. As they walked through the aisles, Emily discreetly observed the prices on the shelves, doing quick calculations in her head. Lily, oblivious to her mother's worries, followed enchanted, pointing at colorful products and asking questions about everything she saw. "Mommy, what's that over there?" asked Lily, pointing to a can of chocolate milk mix with pictures of smiling children on the packaging. "It's chocolate mix, honey. For making chocolate milk. Can I try it?" Emily felt her heart tighten. How do you explain to a 3-year-old that not everything you want can be had? How do you talk about limitations to someone who still believes the world is made of infinite possibilities? "Maybe another day, my princess. Today we're getting other things." It was then that they reached the bakery section, and Lily's world transformed. In the refrigerated display case, rows of sweetbreads, small cakes, powdered sugar-covered donuts, and golden croissants created an irresistible mosaic. But it was one specific sweetbread that completely captured the little girl's attention. Covered with shredded coconut and with a fluffy appearance that looked like a miniature pillow. Lily pressed her face against the glass of the display case, leaving a small mark of vapor from her breath. Her eyes shined with an intensity that Emily knew well. It was the look of someone who had just discovered something magical in the world. On the other side of the aisle, among the cleaning product shelves, a man observed the scene discreetly. Henry Morgan was dressed simply: dark jeans, a button-up shirt without a tie, and a casual jacket. Nothing indicated that he was the owner of this entire supermarket chain. He made these incognito visits regularly, believing this was the only way he could truly understand how his establishments functioned in practice. He was a 42-year-old man who had built the family empire with determination and sharp business vision. But he also carried his own scars: a childhood marked by his family's financial difficulties, a father who worked to exhaustion to provide better conditions for his children, and the responsibility to honor that sacrifice every day. Henry observed when Lily stepped away a few paces from the display case and, with the seriousness of someone making an important decision, held her teddy bear with both hands. The girl approached Mrs. Connie, the bakery attendant who had worked for the company for more than 15 years. "Hi, ma'am," said Lily with a sweet and timid voice, raising the teddy bear toward Connie. "Can I trade my bear for that bread over there?" The silence that followed was deafening. Connie was completely speechless, looking alternately at the child, at the worn toy, and at the bread in the display case. Other people who were nearby stopped to observe the scene, some with expressions of understanding and tenderness, others with curiosity. Emily, who had moved a few meters away to check the price of bananas, heard her daughter's voice and felt her blood freeze. She ran to Lily, her face red with embarrassment and her heart broken by the desperate innocence of the gesture. "Lily, I know, honey, that's not how it works," Emily murmured, trying to discreetly take the teddy bear from her daughter's hands. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Connie. She doesn't understand yet how—" "Mommy, but I want to give my bear to the lady." "He's beautiful, look," insisted Lily, thinking the problem was that the attendant hadn't noticed the qualities of the toy. Connie, a woman with a sensitive heart and life experience, knelt down to the girl's height. "Your teddy bear is very beautiful indeed, dear. But he should stay with you, who takes such good care of him." Henry remained motionless, observing every detail of the scene. He saw the disguised desperation in Emily's eyes, Lily's innocent confusion, and maternal gentleness of Connie trying to navigate the situation without hurting anyone. Something deep stirred within him, a distant memory from his own childhood, when his mother did juggling acts to put food on the table and he, still a child, didn't understand why they couldn't have the same things as other families. Discreetly, Henry approached the customer service counter, where Robert, the store manager, was stationed. With subtle gestures and low words, he gave specific instructions on how to proceed. Robert, accustomed to his boss's demands, simply nodded affirmatively and headed to the bakery. Emily managed to convince Lily to put the teddy bear in her coat pocket, promising that later they could talk about birthday presents. With a heavy heart, she headed to the shelves to get the milk and bananas that fit within her tight budget. Meanwhile, Robert approached Connie and, with professional discretion, whispered a few words. The attendant nodded with an understanding smile, and when Emily returned with her products, Connie was holding a small bag with the sweet bread that had caught Lily's attention. "This bread was left over from yesterday's batch," Connie lied naturally. "I can't sell it, but if you'd like, you can take it. It would be a waste to throw it away." Emily hesitated, suspicious of the coincidence, but Lily had already noticed the bread, and her eyes were shining with genuine happiness. There was no way to refuse without breaking her daughter's heart on her birthday. At the checkout, another surprise. The system showed an automatically applied discount, reducing the total value to exactly the money Emily had in her pocket. The cashier, Juliana, a woman in her early 20s, explained naturally that it was a special promotion of the day for families with small children. Emily knew something wasn't right, but her situation was too desperate to question the unexpected generosity. She thanked them profusely, took the bags, and walked toward the exit with Lily, who was swinging the bag with the bread as if it were a trophy. Henry watched the mother and daughter move away toward the bus stop, where they would wait under the supermarket's awning until the public transport arrived. The rain had intensified, and other people were also seeking shelter in the same location. He noticed how Emily kept Lily protected against her body, using her own coat to better cover her from the cold. That was when he made a decision that would change the course of 3 lives forever. Discreetly, he took a business card from his wallet and placed it inside one of the bags that Emily had momentarily forgotten on the counter while organizing her purchases. The card was simple, with just his name, position, and direct phone number, without pomp or ostentation. Outside, under Portland's persistent drizzle, Emily embraced Lily as they waited for the bus. The girl was taking small bites of the sweet bread, savoring every crumb as if it were the most delicious thing in the world. Between bites, she offered pieces to the teddy bear in an imaginary game that made Emily smile despite all her anguish. "Mommy, this was the best birthday of my life," declared Lily with her mouth full of bread and coconut. Emily kissed her daughter's forehead, feeling tears forming. If Lily knew that this would probably be the last birthday they would celebrate in that rented apartment, that an eviction notice was already posted on their front door, that the job at the clinic had ended in a humiliating way that very morning. The bus arrived with its headlights cutting through the afternoon fog. Mother and daughter boarded, found seats near the window, and Emily watched the supermarket recede through the fogged-up glass. She had no idea that at that exact moment, her life was about to take a completely different course, and that the man who had observed everything in silence would be the key to a transformation she couldn't even imagine was possible. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us what city you're watching from and we'll continue. 3 days had passed since Lily's birthday, and reality knocked on the door in a literal and relentless way. Emily woke up to the sound of hammering outside the apartment. When she opened the door, she found a real estate employee nailing a new notification over the previous one, already faded from the rain of the last few days. 15 days to vacate the property, said the man without looking her in the eyes, as if he were just performing another bureaucratic task. Administrator's orders. The delay has already gone beyond 3 months. Emily closed the door slowly, trying not to wake Lily, who was still sleeping on the small mattress she shared with her mother in the apartment's only room. The space was tiny, one room that served as living room, kitchen and bedroom, with a bathroom so small that a person could barely stand in it. But it had been their home for 2 years, since she had managed to gather money for the down payment. She sat on the floor, leaning against the cold wall, and allowed herself a few minutes of silent despair. Her savings had ended weeks ago. The job at the Vitality Clinic had ended abruptly and unjustly, after she refused the inappropriate advances of her supervisor, Marcus, a married man who confused her economic vulnerability with personal availability. The situation had become unsustainable when Marcus began to create embarrassing situations in the workplace. Unnecessary calls to his office, comments about her appearance, insinuations about growth opportunities that depended on her special collaboration. When Emily made it clear she wasn't interested, he fabricated an accusation that she had missed work without justification, presenting falsified documents that compromised her credibility with management. The dismissal came on the Friday before Lily's birthday, accompanied by malicious comments that Emily knew would spread to other clinics in the region. Marcus ensured her reputation would be tarnished, making it almost impossible to get another job in the healthcare field. Lily woke up with the first rays of sunlight that entered through the small window, stretched like a kitten and smiled at her mother. "Good morning, Mummy. Can we have breakfast?" Emily forced a smile, combed her daughter's curly hair with her fingers, and served the remainder of the milk bought at the supermarket, accompanied by some pieces of the sweet bread that Lily had saved to share with Mommy the next day. The daughter's unconditional generosity always touched her heart deeply. After leaving Lily playing with some colored drawings she had received at the clinic, Emily borrowed the phone from her neighbor, Mrs. Marlene, an elderly retired woman who lived alone in the apartment next door. She spent the entire morning making calls to distant relatives, school friends, acquaintances who might know of some job opportunity. The answers were always the same. "If I hear of anything, I'll let you know. The situation is tough for everyone. We'll try looking at employment agencies." Late in the afternoon, while organizing the few clothes in a small suitcase, mentally preparing for the forced move that was approaching, Emily found something unexpected among the supermarket bags she had kept to reuse. A white business card with simple, elegant lettering, Henry Morgan, Executive Director, followed by a phone number. She stood still for long minutes, analyzing the card between her fingers. The name was familiar. Morgan was the same surname as the supermarket where they had made their purchases. Was it coincidence, or had someone purposely placed that card there? That night, after Lily fell asleep hugging her teddy bear, Emily stayed awake until late, alternately looking at the card and at the phone. The Portland night was silent, broken only by the sporadic sound of cars passing on the street and by the noise of the rain that was starting to fall again. At 3 in the morning, she took courage. She dialed the number. "Hello?" The male voice on the other end was calm even at that unusual hour. Sorry to bother you so late. My name is Emily Reed. I found this card among my purchases from Morgan's supermarket and—" "Emily," Henry interrupted gently, "I was expecting your call." The silence that followed was loaded with meaning. Emily felt her heart quicken, a mixture of hope and apprehension taking over her thoughts. Were you at the supermarket that afternoon?" "I was." "I saw you and your daughter. I saw her gesture with the teddy bear." Henry's voice carried a sincerity that transcended formalities. "Do you need work?" The direct question caught Emily by surprise. "Yes, sir, very much. But I don't want charity. I want an opportunity to show that I can work, that I can learn." "It's not charity," Henry replied. "Can you come to the company headquarters tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon? 15th Avenue, 847, 11th floor." Emily wrote down the address on a piece of paper, trying to keep her voice steady. "May I ask, what kind of work?" We'll talk tomorrow. And Emily? Yes, sir? You can bring your daughter. We have a recreation room at the company. The next morning, Emily woke up with a different energy. For the first time in weeks, there was something concrete to direct her hopes toward. She chose her best clothes, a simple white blouse and black dress pants she had bought for interviews at the clinic, carefully combed her hair, and prepared Lily for what she called a special outing in the city. The Morgan Supermarkets building was imposing, a glass and steel tower that stood out in downtown Portland. Emily had never entered such a place. The lobby was spacious, with marble flooring and a reception area that looked like it came out of an architecture magazine. In the elevator, Lily watched fascinated at the numbered buttons and the mirrors on the walls. "Mommy, it's like we're flying to the clouds," she commented with the fertile imagination of a 3-year-old. Henry's office was on the top floor, with a panoramic view of the city. When the elevator doors opened, they were greeted by Patricia, Henry's personal assistant, an elegant 40-year-old woman with a genuine smile and a welcoming demeanor. "You must be Emily," said Patricia, bending down to Lily's height. "And you're the teddy bear princess, aren't you?" Lily laughed, delighted with the attention, and showed the toy she always carried with her. Patricia led her to an adjacent room, decorated with educational toys, colorful books, and a small table with drawing materials. "You can make yourself comfortable here, dear." "Your mummy won't be long," said Patricia, making sure Lily felt secure before leading Emily to the main office. Henry was standing behind a large desk, observing the city through the window. When he turned to greet her, Emily was certain she had seen him before. He was the man who was in the supermarket aisle that afternoon, dressed simply, blending in with regular customers. "Please, sit down," he said, indicating a comfortable armchair in front of the desk. "Would you like coffee, water?" "No need, thank you." Henry sat down as well, and for a few moments they remained silent, observing each other. He saw a young woman with expressive eyes that revealed inner strength despite visible difficulties. She saw a mature, well-dressed man, but with a simplicity in his gaze that reassured her. "Tell me about yourself, Emily," said Henry, leaning back in his chair. "Not about your resume, about you." The unexpected question made Emily hesitate. She was prepared to talk about professional experiences, about her skills, about her schedule availability. She wasn't prepared to expose herself personally to a stranger. I'm Lily's mother. I've been working since I was 16. I've never asked anyone for help. I've always managed to get by on my own. But lately," her voice trembled slightly, "lately it's been hard." Henry nodded unhurriedly. "And Lily's father?" "He hasn't been part of our lives for 2 years. It's better that way." "Do you have office experience?" "Not much. I worked at the clinic mainly with cleaning and organization. But I learned quickly I'm organized, I don't miss work." Henry opened a drawer in the desk and took out some documents. "I have a position for an administrative assistant. You would start organizing files, taking notes in meetings, helping at reception when necessary. The salary is $2,000 to start, plus benefits. Are you interested?" Emily was speechless. $2,000 was more than she had earned in any previous job. It was the difference between surviving and living with dignity. Yes, I'm very interested. When can I start?" "Next Monday. But I need you to know something, Emily." Henry leaned slightly forward, his eyes serious. "This opportunity has nothing to do with pity or charity. I believe that people who have gone through difficulties develop a work ethic and determination that can't be learned in college. I want to see what you're capable of." They left the building 2 hours later, with Lily carrying a small new teddy bear, a gift from Patricia, and Emily carrying renewed hopes. On the bus ride back home, while Lily played with the 2 teddy bears, making them talk to each other, Emily looked out the window and allowed herself to dream of possibilities that a few weeks ago had seemed impossible. That night, for the first time in a long time, she slept deeply, without waking up startled with worries about the next day. She didn't know yet that her new journey would be just the beginning of a much more complex and surprising story than she could imagine. Monday arrived accompanied by a clear sky, a rarity for Portland's winter. Emily woke up 2 hours earlier than necessary, took a lingering shower and chose her clothes with the care of someone preparing for the first day of a new life. Lily, infected by her mother's positive energy, woke up singing and insisted on bringing both teddy bears to Mommy's company. On the bus, Emily mentally reviewed everything she had researched about the company in the last few days. Morgan Supermarkets had started as a small market in the Gateway neighborhood, founded by Henry's father, Mr. Anthony Morgan, a Portuguese immigrant who arrived in the United States with just one suitcase and a lot of determination. In 40 years, the company had grown and become one of the largest supermarket chains in Oregon, always maintaining the philosophy of proximity to the community. Patricia was waiting in the lobby when they arrived, precisely at 7:30 in the morning. Henry's personal assistant had proven to be a valuable ally, explaining in detail the company routine and introducing Emily to her co-workers with naturalness and respect. "Good morning, Emily." "Good morning, Princess Lily," greeted Patricia with a genuine smile. "Ready for the first day of adventure?" The recreation room had been specially prepared for Lily. In addition to the existing toys, a small bed had been installed so she could rest when necessary. And an employee named Sandra, a specialist in early childhood education, would be responsible for accompanying the employees' children during working hours. Emily's first challenge was to organize an archive that had accumulated over years on the 11th floor. Boxes upon boxes of documents, old contracts, reports from past decades, all mixed without apparent criteria. For many, it would be a tedious task. For Emily, it was an opportunity to show her ability to transform chaos into order. She developed her own cataloging system, separating the documents by date, category, and relevance. She discovered forgotten contracts that still generated revenue for the company, found expansion reports that could be useful for future projects, and created a detailed index that would facilitate later consultations. Henry passed by the archive several times a day, always with some professional excuse, but actually observing how Emily worked. He was impressed with her dedication. She always arrived 15 minutes before schedule, organized work materials with military precision, and demonstrated analytical capability that went far beyond her academic training. By the end of the first week, Emily had transformed the archive into an organized and efficient system. More than that, she had found something that caught her attention. Reports of a project called Market of the Future, developed 5 years before but filed away for reasons that weren't clear in the documentation. The project proposed creating supermarkets with a sustainable concept, including solar energy, local organic products, recycling programs, and integration with small rural producers. It was too innovative for its time, but Emily realized that now, with changes in consumer behavior, it might be exactly what the market was looking for. "Henry," she said on Friday, entering his office with an organized folder, "can I talk to you about something I found in the archives?" He raised his eyes from the documents he was analyzing, noting the different sparkle in her eyes. "Sure, sit down. What's it about?" Emily opened the folder and began to explain the Market of the Future project with an enthusiasm that surprised them both. She had not only organized the original documentation, but also researched current market trends, made notes about economic viability, and even outlined suggestions for improvements to the original proposal. This project was 5 years ahead of its time, she explained, showing graphs and handwritten notes. But now, with consumers' growing concern with sustainability, with the movement to value local products, with environmental awareness, I think it's exactly the right moment to revive it. Henry remained silent for a few minutes, leafing through the notes and analyzing the observations she had made. The woman before him wasn't just an employee organizing files. She was someone with strategic vision, analytical capability, and impressive market intuition. "You did all this in a week, in addition to the regular work in the archive?" he asked, genuinely impressed. Yes, I'm sorry if I overstepped. I know it wasn't my job to analyze projects, but I was interested in the topic and—" "Don't apologize," Henry interrupted. "This is exactly the kind of initiative we expect from employees. Would you like to participate in a meeting about the project next Monday?" The invitation caught Emily completely off guard. In 2 weeks, she had gone from unemployed and desperate to a regular employee. Now she was being invited to participate in strategic meetings, but not everything was going as smoothly as it seemed. That same Friday, while Emily was organizing her things to leave, She received an anonymous note left on her desk. Some people rise too quickly and forget where they came from. Be careful not to fall. The message left her uneasy all weekend. On Monday, during the meeting about the Market of the Future project, she noticed looks from some colleagues that she couldn't decipher. There was something in the air, a subtle tension that she couldn't fully identify. The meeting took place in the conference room on the 12th floor, with a panoramic view of downtown Portland. Besides Henry, present were Robert Mitchell, Operations Manager Carla Fisher, Marketing Director, and Julian Sanders, Special Projects Coordinator. Robert, a 50-year-old man with 3 decades in the company, didn't disguise his skepticism regarding Emily's presence at the meeting. During his presentation of the original project, he made subtly disqualifying comments. Of course, for someone new to the company, everything seems innovative. It's easy to suggest changes when you don't know the operational limitations. Theoretically, many ideas look beautiful on paper. Carla, on the other hand, showed genuine interest in Emily's observations, especially those related to modern consumer behavior. Julian remained neutral, taking notes and asking pertinent technical questions. Henry conducted the meeting diplomatically, but Emily noticed that he was carefully observing the dynamics among the participants. When she presented her suggestions to adapt the project to current reality, he made careful notes and asked her to develop a more detailed report. "Emily," Henry said at the end of the meeting, "you have until Thursday to prepare a complete presentation. You can use whatever company resources you need." Robert couldn't hide his surprise. "Henry, are you sure it's prudent to give so much responsibility to someone who has been with the company for just 2 weeks? I'm sure we should give opportunities to people who demonstrate capability and initiative," Henry replied calmly, "regardless of their time with the company." As she was leaving the meeting, Carla approached Emily. "I really liked your ideas," she said in a low voice, "but I can give you some advice. Be discreet. Not everyone here likes changes, especially when they come from new people." That afternoon, while Emily was working at her desk organizing data for the presentation, she received an unexpected call. It was from a woman with an elegant and slightly arrogant voice. "Emily Reed. My name is Valerie Matthews. I'm a company board member and Henry Morgan's ex-fiancée. I would like to talk with you. Can it be today after work?" The invitation sounded more like a summons. Emily accepted, curious and concerned at the same time. Valerie was waiting for her in the cafe on the ground floor of the building, a 40-year-old woman elegantly dressed, with refined beauty and an air of natural superiority. She was a businesswoman in the real estate sector and had a seat on the advisory board of Morgan Supermarkets since the time she was dating Henry. 5 years earlier. "Thank you for coming," said Valerie with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I want to talk about your situation in the company." "My situation?" asked Emily, immediately defensive. "Look, dear, there's nothing personal, but you must understand that companies like this have their hierarchies, their protocols. New employees normally take years to participate in strategic meetings. You manage that in 2 weeks. That generates comments." Emily felt her blood boil. "Comments about what, exactly?" "About the methods you might be using to achieve this quick rise," said Valerie with false delicacy. "Henry has always been generous with people in difficulties, sometimes too generous." The insinuation was clear and offensive. Emily stood up from the table, controlling her anger with difficulty. "Miss Matthews, I earned my position with work and competence. If that bothers some people, the problem isn't mine." Of course," said Valerie, maintaining her condescending tone. "Just be careful, dear. Very fast rises can result in very painful falls." Emily left the cafe with her hands trembling with indignation, not only from the implicit offense, but from the perception that there were forces working against her in the company, forces she didn't yet fully understand. That night, while Lily slept peacefully hugging her teddy bears, Emily stayed awake preparing Thursday's presentation, determined to prove that her place in the company had been earned through her own merit, regardless of the obstacles they tried to put in her way. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us what city you're watching from and we'll continue. Thursday arrived loaded with expectation and nervousness. Emily had spent 3 sleepless nights preparing the presentation about the Market of the Future project, transforming her small table in the apartment into an improvised study center. Lily, noticing her mother's concentration, played silently with her teddy bears, occasionally approaching to offer colorful drawings for Mommy to be less serious. The presentation was scheduled for 10 in the morning in the executive meeting room on the 12th floor. This time, in addition to the previous participants, other members of the board would be present, including Valerie Matthews, who had expressly requested her presence as a board member. Emily arrived at the company an hour before her usual time, checked her printed slides for the 10th time, and carefully organized her notes. Patricia found her in the hallway, carrying a cup of extra strong coffee. "You're going to do very well," said Patricia, with an encouraging smile. "Henry commented yesterday that he's impressed with your dedication." At 10 o'clock sharp, Emily entered the meeting room with firm steps, despite the butterflies in her stomach. The oval table accommodated 12 people, and today it was almost completely occupied. Henry greeted her with a reassuring nod, while Valerie observed her with a cold smile. "Good morning, everyone," began Emily, connecting her flash drive to the projector. "Today I'm going to present a proposal to revitalize the Market of the Future project, adapting it to current market trends and consumer needs." Over the next 40 minutes, Emily conducted a flawless presentation. She had researched market data, studied international success cases, calculated investment and return projections, and created a detailed implementation timeline. Even more impressive, she had identified 3 specific locations in Portland where the sustainable concept would have the greatest chance of success, based on demographic and behavioral analyses of local consumers. "The question isn't just about creating a sustainable supermarket," she explained, pointing to a graph that showed the growth of environmental concern among consumers aged 25 to 45. "The question is creating a business model that is economically viable, socially responsible and environmentally conscious, positioning Morgan as a pioneer in a movement that will be inevitable in the coming years." Julian asked several technical questions about logistics and suppliers, which Emily answered confidently, demonstrating that she had anticipated these questions during her preparation. Carla was enthusiastic about the proposed marketing strategies, especially the idea of creating a house brand for local and organic products. Robert, visibly annoyed by the quality of the presentation, tried to point out operational difficulties. "It's all very beautiful in theory, but do you have any idea of the costs involved in reformulating suppliers, training employees, adapting logistics systems?" Emily turned to him calmly. "Yes, I do. If you look at slide 15, you'll see that I calculated not only the initial costs, but also the long-term savings with energy efficiency, waste reduction, and customer loyalty. The payback is estimated at 18 months for each unit." The silence that followed was eloquent. Even Valerie seemed impressed, though she tried to hide it. Henry was the first to speak. "Emily, I want to congratulate you on the exceptional work. This presentation demonstrates not only careful research, but also strategic vision and deep understanding of our business." "I completely agree," said Carla. "It's exactly the kind of innovation we need to stay competitive." "I would like to propose," continued Henry, "that Emily assume coordination of the pilot project, with board support, of course, but with autonomy to develop and implement her ideas." The proposal fell like a bomb in the room. Robert choked on his coffee. Valerie's eyes widened, and some other directors exchanged surprised expressions. "Henry," said Valerie with a controlled voice, "don't you think it's precipitous to give so much responsibility to someone with such little time in the company?" "I think it's precipitous to waste talent because of prejudices or conventions," he responded firmly. "Emily has demonstrated technical capability, strategic vision, and dedication. Those are the qualities that matter." The meeting ended with the approval of the pilot project, but Emily knew she had just made powerful enemies. As she left the room, she heard whispers in the hallways, distrustful glances, malicious comments that she couldn't fully decipher. That afternoon, while working in her new office, Henry had arranged a dedicated space for her to focus on the project. She received a call that made her blood run cold. "Hello." "Emily." The male voice on the other end was too familiar, loaded with a falseness she knew well. Lucas, her ex-husband, spoke with the measured tone of someone in control of the situation. "How did you get my work phone?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I have my contacts. I heard you're working at an important company now. Moving up in life, aren't you? What do you want, Lucas? I want to talk about our daughter, about my rights as a father. Emily closed her eyes, remembering the 2 years of nightmare she had lived with that man. Lucas was externally charming, but controlling and manipulative in intimacy. During their marriage, he isolated her from friends, controlled every penny she earned, and used emotional blackmail whenever she tried to question anything. The separation had been traumatic. Lucas didn't accept the end of the relationship and used Lily as an instrument of pressure. When Emily finally managed to escape with her daughter, he had threatened to make their lives a living hell. For months she lived in fear, constantly changing addresses, until he seemed to give up. You have no rights over Lily, she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. You lost any rights when you chose violence. Violence? I never laid a finger on either of you. You know that. It was true technically. Lucas had never used physical violence. His specialty was psychological violence, veiled threats, manipulation, financial control, social isolation. More subtle, more difficult to prove, but equally devastating. What do you want, Lucas? I want to see my daughter. I have legal rights, Emily. And now that you're earning well, I can demand retroactive child support too. The threat was clear. He knew details about her current life, about her work, about her financial situation. This meant he was watching, investigating, preparing for some move. Don't come near us, said Emily, her voice trembling slightly. Or what? You'll call your rich boss to protect you. Oh yes, I know about you two. The insinuation was disgusting and predictable. Lucas had always used distrust and jealousy as weapons of manipulation. You don't know anything, and if you don't stop bothering us, I'll go to the police. Do that. It will be interesting to explain to the police why a responsible mother prevents a father from seeing his own daughter. Lucas hung up, leaving Emily with shaking hands and a racing heart. She knew he didn't make empty threats. If he was calling now, it was because he had a plan. That night in the apartment, Emily watched Lily playing with her teddy bears, oblivious to the storms of the adult world. The girl had perfectly adapted to the company routine, made friends with other children who frequented the recreation room, and was visibly happier and healthier. The stability they had achieved in the last few weeks now seemed threatened on several fronts: the internal intrigues of the company, the hostility of jealous colleagues, and now Lucas's return to their lives. On Friday morning, Emily arrived at the company and found an unidentified envelope on her desk. Inside, a photo of Lily leaving the recreation room, taken through the window of the 11th floor. On the back, a handwritten message, "Beautiful girl. It would be a shame if something happened to her because of her mother's ambition." Emily felt her legs go weak. Someone had taken that photo from inside the company itself. Someone knew her movements, knew where Lily stayed during the day, and was using this to intimidate her. She put the photo in her purse and tried to continue working normally, but couldn't concentrate. Every noise in the hallway made her jump. Every person who passed by her office was viewed with suspicion. Late in the afternoon, she made a decision that would change everything. She knocked on Henry's office door. "Can I talk to you?" "It's urgent." Henry immediately noticed the tension in her face, the red eyes of someone who hadn't slept well, the hands that trembled slightly. "Of course, sit down." "Did something happen?" Emily took a deep breath and told him everything. About Lucas, about the threats, about the photo of Lily. She showed him the envelope. The message explained the situation of her previous marriage, the escape with her daughter, the fear she felt now. Henry listened to everything in silence, his face becoming increasingly serious. When she finished, he remained thoughtful for a few minutes, analyzing the photo and the message. "Emily," he said finally, "you and Lily cannot remain unprotected. Not while there are concrete threats. I don't want to be a burden to you or to the company," she said, her voice loaded with emotion. "Maybe it's better if I leave. Look for another job, move to another city." "No," said Henry firmly. "You're not going to run away. You're not going to give up what you've achieved because of cowards who use intimidation. I'm going to help you." "How?" "First, we're going to hire specialized security to accompany you. Second, I'm going to talk to my lawyer about legal measures against your ex-husband. Third, We're going to find out who's behind these internal threats. Emily felt tears forming in her eyes. For a long time, no one had been willing to protect her, to fight for her, to treat her as someone who deserved care and respect. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked, genuinely curious. Henry hesitated for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "Because I recognize in you something I've experienced myself," he said finally. "The struggle to prove your worth, to earn your space, to protect the people you love. And because I believe that people like us need to support each other." At that moment, Emily knew her life had changed forever. Not just because of the job, not just because of the financial stability, but because of the discovery that there was someone willing to fight alongside her, someone who saw in her more than she herself sometimes could see. What she didn't know yet was that the challenges that would follow would test this partnership in ways that neither of them could imagine. Monday arrived with visible changes. Emily immediately noticed the presence of Mark, a discreet but attentive security guard that Henry had hired to accompany them. He was waiting for them at the bus stop, followed at a respectful distance during the journey, and positioned himself strategically in the company lobby during working hours. Lily, with a child's natural curiosity, quickly established a friendly relationship with Mark, asking about his work and offering drawings she made in the recreation room. The guard, a 40-year-old man with military experience, couldn't hide the affection he was developing for the little girl. "Uncle Mark, will you always stay with us?" asked Lily one morning, while they waited for the elevator. "I'll stay as long as necessary to keep you safe, Princess," he replied with a paternal smile. Emily observed these interactions with mixed feelings, gratitude for the protection, but also concern about what this meant regarding the level of threat they were facing. Her suspicions were confirmed when Mark sought her out during the lunch break. "Emily, I need to tell you something. We have news about your ex-husband." They sat at a reserved table in the company restaurant, away from other employees. Henry's lawyer investigated Lucas Reed. He has a concerning history: 3 police reports for threats and harassment against ex-girlfriends, 2 restraining orders requested, and he's currently been unemployed for 8 months. Emily's heart raced. That means he has free time to stalk us. It means he's desperate and potentially dangerous. But it also means we have information to request a preventive restraining order. That afternoon, Emily went to the courthouse with the company lawyer, Mr. Raphael Morris, a competent man experienced in family law. They filed a request for an emergency protective order, attaching the phone threats, the photo of Lily, and Lucas's history of behavior. "The hearing should happen by the end of the week," explained Mr. Morris. "Meanwhile, it's important that you and Lily maintain your routine, but always accompanied by security." Upon returning to the company, Emily found a tense environment. Patricia was waiting for her in the reception with a worried expression. "Emily, you need to go upstairs urgently. Something serious happened." On the 11th floor, a group of employees had gathered around Emily's desk. Her workstation had been vandalized. Documents scattered, drawers ransacked, and on the computer screen a threatening message: "People who don't know their place can lose everything they've achieved." Henry arrived a few minutes later, visibly furious. Who had access to this room over the weekend? Robert Mitchell, who had arrived shortly after, seemed equally indignant. "This is unacceptable. I'll review all the security footage." But Emily noticed something strange about Robert's behavior. His eyes avoided direct contact, and he seemed more concerned with deflecting suspicion than genuinely investigating the incident. Valerie arrived late in the afternoon, ostensibly supportive. "Emily, what a terrible situation. You must not feel safe here. Maybe it would be better to take a few days off until we resolve this." The suggestion sounded like a forced invitation to give up. Emily raised her chin, determined. "Thank you for your concern, Valerie, but I won't let myself be intimidated. I'll continue my work normally." "How admirable," said Valerie with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I hope you know what you're getting into." That night at home, Emily mentally organized everything that had happened in the last few weeks. The coincidences were too many to be casual. The growing hostility from some colleagues, the anonymous messages, the vandalism that happened precisely when she was out of the company, and now the direct threats from Lucas. She was beginning to suspect there was a connection between the 2 fronts of attacks, but still couldn't clearly see how. On Tuesday, the situation dramatically escalated. Lily was playing in the recreation room when Sandra, the supervisor responsible, noticed a man standing across the street, observing the window of the 11th floor with binoculars. Mark was immediately alerted, but when he reached the ground floor, the man had disappeared. The security cameras captured a figure with a cap and dark glasses, impossible to identify with precision. He was specifically interested in the room where the children are, reported Sandra, visibly shaken. He was there for almost 20 minutes. Henry made an immediate decision. Lily would be transferred to an internal room without windows to the street, and security would be reinforced with 2 more guards. "This is getting out of control," said Emily, trying to stay calm while hugging her daughter. "Maybe I should really step away from the company for a while." "No," Henry said firmly. "That's exactly what they want, for you to give up, to run away. We won't give them that satisfaction." On Wednesday, the missing piece of the puzzle finally appeared. Mr. Morris called with important information about the investigation. "Emily, we discovered something interesting. Your ex-husband has been at the company building several times in the last 2 weeks. He didn't go upstairs, he wouldn't have access, but he was in the lobby talking to employees." "Which employees?" "We're checking, but we've already identified that he had a prolonged meeting with someone from the board at the coffee shop on the corner. The external cameras showed the meeting, but we couldn't identify the other person." Emily felt a terrible suspicion forming in her mind. "Mr. Morris, I need to see those images." That afternoon, in the lawyer's office, Emily analyzed the security footage. The images were grainy and taken from a distance, but there was something familiar about the posture of the person talking to Lucas. "Can you enlarge this part?" she asked, pointing to a specific scene. When the image was enlarged, even though blurry, Emily recognized an unmistakable detail: a butterfly-shaped brooch that she had seen several times on Valerie's suit lapels. "It's her," Emily murmured, feeling nauseous. "Valerie is working with Lucas. The pieces fit perfectly now." Valerie had access to internal company information, knew Emily and Lily's routine, knew about the project she was coordinating, and had personal motivations for wanting to separate her from Henry. Lucas, in turn, wanted to regain control over Emily and saw her professional situation as an opportunity for blackmail. On Thursday, the judicial hearing happened as scheduled. Lucas appeared accompanied by a private attorney, whom Emily later discovered had been recommended and was being paid by Valerie. Lucas's lawyer argued that he was a dedicated father, being unjustly prevented from seeing his daughter, that Emily was alienating the child against him, and that the alleged threats were misunderstandings or coincidences. Mr. Morris, on the other hand, presented a complete dossier: Lucas's history of behavior, recordings of the telephone threats, the anonymous photo of Lily, and evidence of the vandalism at the company. The judge, Dr. Anthony Silva, an experienced and judicious man, listened to both sides carefully. When it came time for Lily to be heard, in a reserved environment and with psychological accompaniment, her words were decisive. "Daddy Lucas scared me," she said with the disarming sincerity of a child. "He yelled at Mommy and made me cry. Now I'm not scared anymore because Mommy is happy at her work." The judicial decision came on Friday, restraining order granted for an indefinite period, prohibiting Lucas from approaching Emily and Lily within a radius of 200 meters, from contacting them by any means, and from frequenting the places where they worked or studied. But Emily knew that the legal victory was just the first step. She still needed to deal with the internal conspiracy at the company, and now that she knew of Valerie's participation, she needed to devise a strategy to unmask Henry's ex-fiancée without seeming paranoid or vindictive. That night, at home, while Lily slept hugging her teddy bears, Emily planned her next move. She had sufficient evidence about the connection between Lucas and Valerie, but needed to present it in a way that Henry would believe her and take the necessary measures. What she didn't know was that Valerie was also planning her final move, a plan that would involve not only discrediting Emily professionally, but also trying to permanently separate her from Henry. And this plan would be put into practice the following Monday, in a way that would test not only the professional relationship between them, but also the personal feelings that had been silently growing between two people who had met in the most unlikely circumstances. Monday arrived with a grey sky that mirrored the tension Emily felt in her chest. She had spent the weekend organizing all the evidence about the conspiracy between Valerie and Lucas, preparing for a definitive conversation with Henry, but before she could look for him, Patricia intercepted her in the lobby with an urgent expression. "Emily, Henry needs to speak with you immediately. Something serious has happened." In his office, Henry was visibly shaken, holding some documents with tense hands. "Emily, we received an anonymous complaint about you. Serious allegations about your professional and personal conduct." Emily's heart raced. "What kind of allegations?" "They say you're using confidential company information for your own benefit, that you've established inappropriate relationships to get promotions, and that you lied about your qualifications on your resume." Emily felt the world spin. It was exactly the kind of attack that Valerie would be capable of orchestrating. Subtle, difficult to completely refute, and designed to destroy her credibility. "Henry, do you believe these accusations?" He was silent for a few seconds, studying her face. "No, but the company board is demanding a formal investigation. Valerie is leading the investigative committee." "That's exactly what she wants," said Emily, realizing the moment had come to reveal everything. "Henry, I need to tell you something important. Valerie is working with my ex-husband." Over the next 20 minutes, Emily explained everything: the security camera images, the coincidence of the attacks, the discovery of the butterfly brooch, how the internal and external threats seemed coordinated. Henry listened to everything in silence, his face moving from surprise to indignation as she presented each piece of evidence. "If this is true," he said finally, "Valerie has committed a serious breach of trust and may have been involved in criminal activities." "It is true, and I can prove it." "How?" Emily smiled for the first time that morning. "With a trap. But I'll need your help." The plan she had elaborated during the weekend was simple but effective. Henry would pretend to believe the accusations against Emily and schedule a board meeting for Tuesday, ostensibly to fire her. The information would be leaked discreetly to Valerie, who would certainly contact Lucas to celebrate the victory. But what Valerie wouldn't know is that the meeting would be recorded with prior judicial authorization and that Lucas would be monitored by company security throughout the day. "It's risky," said Henry. "If something goes wrong, you could really lose your job." "I'm already running that risk anyway," Emily replied. "But now I have a chance to clear my name and definitively protect Lily." That afternoon, Henry perfectly played his part in the plan. In an apparently casual conversation with Robert, whom they knew was close to Valerie, he commented about Tuesday's meeting and his disappointment with Emily. As expected, the information quickly reached Valerie, who couldn't hide her satisfaction during a routine board meeting Monday afternoon. "Henry," she said with fake concern, "I know it must be difficult for you, but sometimes people disappoint us. It's better to discover the truth now than later." "You're right," Henry replied with feigned bitterness. "I thought I knew Emily, but perhaps I let myself be carried away by inappropriate feelings." Valerie smiled internally. After years of trying to win Henry back, she finally saw an opportunity to eliminate the competition and get close to him again. On Tuesday morning, the hidden cameras were already installed in the meeting room. Mr. Morris was positioned in an adjacent room, monitoring everything through screens, while Mark coordinated the surveillance of Lucas. At 10 in the morning, the meeting began with all board members present. Valerie took the lead in the discussion, presenting the evidence against Emily with an efficiency that revealed meticulous preparation. "As you can see," she said, spreading documents on the table, "there are significant inconsistencies in Emily Reed's conduct. She had access to confidential information that could benefit competitors, established inappropriate personal relationships with superiors, and there are doubts about the truthfulness of her qualifications." Henry pretended to study the documents with a serious expression. "These are serious accusations, Valerie. Are you sure they're valid?" "Absolutely," she replied, clearly confident. "In fact, I can say I have information from a reliable source that confirms these suspicions." "What source?" Valerie hesitated for a fraction of a second, enough time to realize she had said more than she should. Sources that I prefer to keep confidential, to protect the investigation. That was when Henry gave the agreed-upon signal. Mr. Morris entered the room accompanied by 2 private investigators. "Valerie Matthews," said Mr. Morris formally, "you are being confronted with evidence of conspiracy, defamation, and violation of fiduciary duties. You have the right to remain silent and to consult an attorney." Valerie's face lost all color. "What are you talking about?" "This is absurd." That was when the investigators played the recordings of telephone conversations between her and Lucas, legally intercepted with judicial authorization. The voices were unmistakable. "Lucas, she's gaining too much ground. Henry is clearly interested in her. Leave it to me, Valerie. I'll pressure her until she gives up. Be careful not to go too far. We need it to appear that she left by her own choice. And then you go back to Henry? That's the plan. Without Emily in the way, I'll show him we're still compatible." The silence in the room was deafening. Valerie tried to deny, to invent explanations, but the evidence was overwhelming. Robert, who had been innocently manipulated into passing information, showed genuine indignation. "Valerie, how could you use our friendship to harm a colleague?" "I didn't." "I never wanted to harm anyone," she stammered, realizing her version of the story no longer worked. Henry stood up from his chair, his voice controlled but loaded with disappointment. "Valerie, you betrayed the trust of this company, harmed an innocent employee, and put a child at risk. Your participation on the board is immediately revoked, and we will consider legal measures." At that moment, Mark entered the room with news that closed the circle. Lucas Reed was arrested 20 minutes ago for violating the protective order. He was caught near the company, trying to enter the building with fake documents. Valerie collapsed in her chair, realizing her plan had not only failed, but completely backfired on her. In the days that followed, Morgan Enterprises underwent a complete internal cleaning. Robert, genuinely sorry for having been manipulated, became one of Emily's biggest supporters. Other employees who had shown hostility began to treat her with the respect her work deserved. The Market of the Future project was unanimously approved, with Emily officially named as General Coordinator. Its first pilot unit would be inaugurated in 6 months, in the Greenwater neighborhood, ironically, close to the supermarket where everything had begun. But the most significant transformation happened in the relationship between Emily and Henry. During the weeks of crisis, they had developed a partnership based on mutual trust, respect, and admiration. What began as a professional situation had evolved into something much deeper and more personal. On a Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after the resolution of the case, Henry invited Emily and Lily to dinner at his home. It was the first time she saw the personal side of his life, a cozy house, decorated with simplicity and good taste, with an impressive library and family photos spread throughout the rooms. "Henry," said Emily while Lily played in the garden with a golden retriever dog named Rex, "I need to thank you for everything you've done for us." "You don't need to thank me. You earned everything on your own merit. I'm not just talking about the work. I'm talking about you believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself, about giving me not just an opportunity but a chance to start over." Henry moved closer to her, his eyes meeting hers with a new intensity. "Emily, you need to know something. What I feel for you goes far beyond professional admiration." She felt her heart quicken. "Henry, you don't need to answer now. I know you've been through a lot of trauma, that you need time. But I want you to know that when you're ready, I'll be here." Emily smiled, feeling a peace she hadn't experienced in years. Through the window, she saw Lily running through the garden, laughing loudly while playing with Rex. The girl was radiant, healthy, safe, everything a mother could wish for her daughter. "I think I'm already ready," she said softly. "Ready to trust again, to build something true with someone who's worth it." 3 months later, on a sunny spring morning, Emily was in the office organizing the final reports of the pilot project when Lily burst into the room, carrying her 2 teddy bears. "Mommy, Uncle Henry said I can call him Daddy Henry if I want to." Emily smiled, remembering the afternoon in the supermarket when it all began, a little girl trying to trade a teddy bear for a sweet bread, not knowing that that simple gesture would change 3 lives, forever. "And do you want to, my princess?" "I do. He's nice, takes care of us, and Rex likes me." From the hallway, Henry appeared at the door with a wide smile on his face. "Would you two like to have lunch with me today? I have a surprise." "What surprise?" asked Lily, jumping with excitement. "You'll find out," he said, winking at Emily. Later, at their favorite restaurant, Henry made an announcement that left Emily speechless. The Market of the Future project was selected as a sustainable innovation case study by the Environmental Protection Agency. "You, Emily, have been invited to present it at the National Congress in Washington, D.C. "I can't believe it," she murmured, her eyes shining with emotion. "And there's more. The Morgan chain has been chosen to expand the concept to 5 states. Do you want to be the national director of the project?" Lily clapped her hands, even without completely understanding what was happening, but perceiving it was something very good from her mother's happiness. That night, at home, now a real house they had rented together in the Greenwater neighborhood, Emily tucked Lily into bed and watched her daughter sleep, hugging her faithful teddy bears. The original bear, faded and mended, remained her favorite. It had witnessed their entire journey, from poverty to stability, from fear to security, from loneliness to love. It was a silent symbol that even the simplest things can have an invaluable worth when they carry memories and true affection. Henry approached from behind, enveloping her in an affectionate embrace. "What are you thinking about?" "About how life can change in unexpected ways. A few months ago I was desperate, without prospects, without hope. Today you're a successful executive, mother of a beautiful and happy girl, and the woman I love," he completed, softly kissing her neck. Emily turned in his arms, her eyes full of tears of happiness. "I love you too. Henry, thank you for seeing in me more than I could see in myself." 6 months later, in a simple but moving ceremony in the garden of their home, Emily and Henry were married. Lily was the flower girl, carrying a basket of rose petals and, of course, her teddy bear in her free arm. During the vows, Emily spoke about new beginnings, about the courage to accept help, about the importance of believing that better days are always possible. Henry spoke about finding love in the most unexpected places and how small gestures can transform entire lives. In the audience, Patricia cried with emotion. Mark smiled proudly at the family he had helped protect, and even Robert was visibly touched by the ceremony. The Market of the Future project became a national success, revolutionizing the concept of sustainability in American retail. Emily became a reference in business innovation, giving lectures across the country and inspiring other companies to adopt more conscious practices. Lily grew up in a structured family with love, security, and opportunities that her mother had never dreamed possible to offer. She maintained the habit of carrying her original teddy bear to all important places: first day of school, presentations at school, family trips. Lucas was convicted of violating the restraining order and harassment, serving his sentence in a minimum security facility. During the judicial process, his history of manipulation and psychological control became evident, completely validating the decisions Emily had made to protect her daughter. Valerie was sued for defamation, conspiracy, and violation of fiduciary duties. She lost her position in other companies where she served as a board member, had to pay substantial compensation to Emily, and practically disappeared from Portland's business scene. 2 years after the wedding, on a Saturday morning, Emily was preparing breakfast when she felt small arms wrapping around her legs. "Good morning, Mommy." "Good morning, my princess. Did you sleep well? I dreamed about that day we went to the supermarket, and I wanted to trade my teddy bear for the sweetbread." Emily knelt down to her daughter's height, now 6 years old and even smarter and more affectionate. "And what happened in the dream?" "In the dream, the lady at the market said my bear was so special that it was worth not just a sweet bread, but a whole new family, with Daddy Henry, with Rex, with this beautiful house, and with you always happy." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You know something, Lily. I think your dream is very similar to reality." "It is, right, Mummy? My teddy bear is magic." At that moment, Henry came down to the kitchen, still in his pajamas, carrying Rex in his arms as if he were a big baby. The scene was so comical and affectionate that Emily and Lily burst into laughter. "What are you laughing at?" asked Henry, pretending to be indignant. "At you, Daddy Henry," said Lily, running to hug him. As they prepared breakfast together, Henry making pancakes, Emily preparing fruit, and Lily organizing the plates with the seriousness of someone with an important mission, Emily reflected on how this simple, everyday scene represented everything she had dreamed of when she was lost and without hope. The house was full of life, laughter, and plans for the future. The company continued to grow. The sustainable project expanded to other countries, and she had found not only financial stability, but professional and personal fulfillment. But most importantly, Lily was growing up in a family where love, respect, and mutual support were fundamental values. The girl would never again need to trade a toy for food, would never again live in fear, would never again feel that she needed to give up something precious to get the basics to survive. That afternoon, as they walked through the park near home, Henry flying a kite with Lily, Rex chasing butterflies, and Emily observing the family she never imagined she could have, she felt a deep gratitude for each person who had crossed her path on that journey. For Mrs. Connie, the kind attendant who treated Lily with care on that difficult first day, for Patricia, who became a true friend and the girl's godmother, for Mark, who continued to provide security for the family even after the threats ceased, because he had genuinely become attached to all of them, for Mr. Morris, who fought for justice with tireless dedication, for all the employees who, after overcoming misunderstandings, became respectful colleagues and loyal collaborators, and especially for Henry, who had seen beyond appearances, who had believed in her potential when she didn't believe it herself, who had offered not just a job opportunity, but a chance to rebuild her life with dignity and love. "Mommy," said Lily, running to her with rosy cheeks from playing so much, "do you think when I grow up, I'll be able to help other people like Daddy Henry helped us?" Emily smiled, hugging her daughter. "I'm sure you will, my princess. People who receive love learn to give love. People who are helped learn to help. Then I'll help lots of people because you love me so much." At night, after Lily fell asleep hugging her magic teddy bear, Emily and Henry sat on the porch of their house, watching the stars in Portland's clear sky. "Any regrets?"